welcome back to Everyone's Addicted. Today's guests have graciously come on to talk about their knowledge and their experience with addiction. I take We have Dean and HollyKem, and they are going to graciously talk about what they know, and I am very grateful for having them today. So let's welcome them and take it away.
Well, thank you so much for having
Yeah.
us. Yes, like you
Thank
said,
you.
I'm Dean Sinceri and my wife Holly Kim. We've been married, what,
30, this year will be 34 years,
34
35.
years, 35.
I
And
love that because it's so rare nowadays that people don't like stick it out anymore. Everybody just kind of
Mm.
does gives up easily. And like from my
yeah,
perspective, I don't like that. I feel like it's just an easy way out. And
yeah, we basically met in a 12-step meeting
Yep, sure
years and
did.
years ago.
that's like that's like this my first sponsor, her and her husband met in the program, and they've been together now for probably almost as long as you guys. So sometimes those are the best places because you have like-minded people, right?
That's right. We were
Well,
both.
we're from New Orleans, so you either meet in a 12-step meeting or you meet in a bar. There's not too
Oh,
many in
yeah.
between. So
I've I've
by that
always
time, we're no longer in the bar. We were.
I've always wanted to go to Mardi Gras, but maybe it wouldn't be the best place for me because of the temptation. But I
Mm.
would it would be fun.
Yeah, Mardi Gras is fun. I didn't go to Mardi Gras until I was 5 years sober. So, waited a while and, now I go. I'm 42 years sober, so I do go. I don't hang out for the whole 2 weeks, but I do go to some parades because our son loves it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But,
Because that's the cool part is all the colors and everybody's costumes and just the everybody's in a good mood. Like it
yes.
just looks like a lot of fun. I'm Canadian, right? So I only see from what they show on television, right?
Yeah. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. It's a free party for 2 weeks. And, people come from all over the world and it's a lot of fun. There's a lot of alcohol, there's a lot of stuff. I say every addict from here to, across the world comes, but also there's a lot of family. It's, you can go to one side of the city and, it's more party, and then you can go to another side of the city and it's more family oriented. So there's both
But
sides to it.
that's good to know,
Yes.
actually, that that they have a family
Yeah.
oriented side to it because that is
Yes.
Yeah.
something that they don't show us.
Right.
And every time I've suggested it to my husband, oh, well, our kids are too little to take to that, right?
Well, there's two main streets right next to each other in the French Quarter. There's Bourbon Street and there's Royal Street. And Royal Street
Urban Street.
has wonderful shops. It has great artwork. It has a lot of unique places. And then, of course, Bourbon Street, everybody knows of. But it's kind of like a rite of passage when you grow up in New Orleans that when your favorite street goes from Bourbon to Royal, you've finally grown up, you see. But to say that, when you come here with your family, you can go to Royal Street and you
Yeah.
can really enjoy the other side of the city. So it's not
Yeah.
just Bourbon Street.
Well, I
Yeah.
like a lot of the culture too.
Hmm.
Before I went back to school, I was doing like tarot reading and stuff like that. So some of the culture that they have there with that kind of stuff interests me as well, right? So I would probably be in all the shops like buying weird things.
Yeah. We had, and in the city, there's a little bit of everything. So, it definitely our city has a soul. It is
Yeah,
very cultured.
heartbeat.
Yeah, it has a heartbeat, and the people are very, very welcoming. I believe that our city is a servant city, and, it's here to serve and hospitality, and we welcome different, we welcome all. And, it's a beautiful thing, they want everybody to really enjoy all the things that we have to offer in Louisiana, which is
I
nice.
think, yeah, which I think is so nice because, like, where I live, it is a really nice little town that got taken over by just building, so it
Mhm.
actually can't handle the amount of people that live there now. But
Yeah.
it was like that too. It was this little town with these two rivers, and it was so beautiful, and everybody knew each other, and everybody was so welcoming, and we had all those little shops that were owned by locals, and
Mhm.
it kind of got ruined by having just large growth over a
Mhm.
really short period of time.
Mhm.
So that's what I miss. So listening to you talk about that, I'm like, oh, I miss that feeling
Yeah.
because it's so true, right?
Yeah. And we have great
Anyhow,
food.
so what um do you guys so for context, what do you guys do now and how did you get to that point?
Okay. You want to go?
Go ahead.
Well, we're both life coaches and therapists, and I am a recovering drug addict and alcoholic, and I've been sober for 42 years, January 10th,
Awesome.
1983. Yes, God is good. I've worked really, really hard to recover myself, who I really was meant to be, who I am, and really learning to love myself for the last 42 years.
That's the
Is
hardest part, I think.
Yes, it is the hardest part. And not just to love myself, but to love all of me. The parts of me that was very wounded, the parts of me that wounded others and myself, and really taking my power back and being connected to, a higher power, to a God that is loving and kind, and learning how to integrate that into my life. And through that process, um, and recovering myself, I ended up studying to be a board certified substance abuse counselor, which I did for over 17 years. And then became a life coach in the last, I'd say, 23 years ago. And
Really,
then,
that's before they were never heard of, like
yes,
in the last 3 or 4 years, it's been a popular thing, but
yeah,
not back then. So
right,
that's crazy that you took advantage of that like
yeah,
area where it's not just addiction and you can
right,
kind of help guide people with other issues. Like you say, like even with like
right,
anger problems or something,
right.
like that's awesome.
Yeah. So through that process of, and I didn't feel like you can sell the 12 steps. They're free, right? And from there, being dyslexic and ADD, just really seeing what the people were trying to teach me and, my own journey, I came up with a vision. I came up with a concept, an idea, and I would slot my thoughts, feelings, and beliefs into three categories. And then when I started working with people, that's how what I saw is like I would see them, and when they would speak, I would categorize their thoughts, feelings, and beliefs, and I would help them with a language. And through that, with meeting Dean and teaching him, and then what he knew, and then we integrated that and we came up with our own concept and our own book. And that's what we've been doing for the last 30 something years is teaching people how to really love themselves with a specific concept that is also a complement to any other type of self-help things that you would do, or therapy or counseling or coaching. So,
Well, I also think like if you've gone like because I've gone to counselors who have not experienced addiction or even maybe trauma per se,
mhm,
and they are very textbook, which
mhm,
doesn't help you, I don't find, compared to somebody like you who has gone through it and gone through it in the town where it'd be the hardest ever to stay sober, and you've learned the skills of how to learn, like you had to go through it, you had to walk that walk so you can teach people how to walk the walk. It's so
right,
much different, and I think that it is so much more beneficial because I find people put that wall right up as soon as they go to
mhm,
a counselor that is it, but if they're at a meeting and they're talking, that wall comes down.
right.
Yeah.
But
You're right.
with
We
meeting,
really started to help people that were in stage two recovery.
Yeah.
That was sort of
that's
our,
what I call
we cut our
graduating.
teeth.
That's what I
Yeah.
call graduating AA because or sorry, a 12-step program because I think you need to, like she said, learn how to love yourself again, and that's just not in the 12 step
Yeah, well,
aspect.
it's in seed form, right? Because Bill Wilson understood that underneath every addict is resentments and
Yeah.
fears and sexual disorder type stuff. So, those things are the root of all addictions.
Right.
I mean, most people think I just need to put a cork in a bottle and I'm fine, but
I
there's always something driving it. And so that's when we started to work with people, we said, okay, one part of you is the addict or your unhealthy thoughts and behaviors. But you also have a part of you we call the wounded child, which carries your pain, carries your trauma. And unless you honor and work with both, you're not going to get freedom from addiction.
Right.
That you have to do healing with the part that's carrying our pain, and you have to contain the behavior. And it's in the midst of those two that our true self starts to emerge. And so both needs to be honored. And when I first met HollyKem, we both came from very different places. I was coming out the seminary, she was coming out the streets, but what we had in
Right.
common was that we were both committed to our own recovery process. I mean, really on fire for
Right.
that. And because of that, that really was the groundwork of what we help people. I mean, I got started in this in a real practical way when when I had a friend of mine, a mentor, that I was telling him about my dad's drinking had escalated when I was a late teenager, early 20s, and it got to where it was out of control. And he said, you got to do an intervention. And I was
Mhm.
like, what's an intervention? Back in those days, 30, 35 years ago,
yeah, that wasn't
you
heard
know,
of.
it wasn't heard of, but they had a guy, Vernon Johnson, who wrote a book on intervention. So I ordered the book. I got the book, and my first uh, in gig in the mental health field was actually intervening on my father, which was the scariest thing I ever did. But
Oh,
we
I'm
had,
scared to do that to my mother, so geez Louise.
yeah, yeah. So we did, and we got his business partner. My dad's Catholic. We had three recovering priests. We had my family members, and we did the intervention just like it said to do in the book. And he went to treatment that day, and he's been sober ever since. And that's
Mhm.
probably close to 40 years. And so, what we learned so much in that process. But back in those days, when a person would go to treatment, they would go for 4 weeks at least. And in the third week, the entire family would go to treatment. It
I
was
like that.
family
That
week. I
because
mean,
that
from
is lacking here, and the family
Mhm.
doesn't go to treatment, and
Right.
then the people come out, and then the family doesn't hold to stick to their boundaries, and then the enabling, and they don't mean to, but it just the
Right.
cycle repeats itself because their families aren't being taught how to deal with the addict. That's why I say everyone is addicted, because you have the addict and then you have the loved ones surrounded by them. And you're right, if
Right.
they're not taught how to properly deal with them. I literally just interviewed somebody who said he became an interventionist after his son died, and he realized as becoming an interventionist all of the things that he did wrong with
Yeah.
his
yeah,
son. And that's why that's needed. Like, I love that.
Yes.
yeah.
Like,
Well, what people need to understand is that you know the addict found their way of dealing with their emotional pain. But if you're in an addictive system, whether
Yeah.
the child or the spouse, you've developed unhealthy
Yeah.
behaviors to deal with the emotional pain. Now, it may be addiction, it may not, but it's still unhealthy behaviors. And
Right.
so, if everybody in the system doesn't identify that, the system's not going to change.
Right.
In fact, as you're alluding to, is that the system, if it doesn't do their own work, is going to encourage the addict to go back to their
Right.
old role because they haven't changed. And so, it is real important to get the system or the family members involved.
Yeah. Definitely.
even if you watch the television show Intervention, they try to get the family
Yeah.
members to go to treatment themselves, and usually the family doesn't do it because of whatever reasons. But I I also think that it's that they put the blame on the addict, and they don't want to deal with it because they've been pushed to a point where they can't
Right.
take it anymore, and that's why they're on the show. Do you know what I mean? But
Right.
I
You're
think everyday people would be way more perceptive to that than somebody who's been pushed to the point to go on TV to get their child help, right?
right, right. Yeah, and it's a system, and that's what people don't understand. Yeah, you have one person that is sedating on one level, but then everybody's sedating on some level, even if it's you're sedating on the addict because you're so, consumed with them. So in that, it's really learning how to understand that I'm in pain too, even if it's about that person, and then how am I coping with that? That's unhealthy, and really being able to each person in the system have the opportunity to really look at themselves. And, a long time ago when we did treatment, that was how we did it, that you went for 30 days, one whole week was dedicated to the family. And then usually the client would go to a halfway house and they would stay there for 3 months to 6 months. And
Because
then the family would go to therapy and do their thing. So when the patient came back, there was integration, and then
that's
things were
awesome.
different. And today, we don't do that really. I mean, because insurance got involved instead of people paying cash and not understanding that this is an investment for life. This is a college for life. And that. For me and Dean, we are in our business, it's cash. We're just like, and it's not that it's cash, it's that you're going to invest in yourself. You're going
Yeah,
to let
instead of
some things.
having the
Right,
insurance company
right,
involved saying, no, you cannot
right,
take this treatment because we will
right.
not provide it and it causes all those issues. Oh, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And what I've always trained people is like, this is an investment in your life and in generations.
It
You know,
it is to
yes,
break that generational
yes,
chains, because
yes.
like I think most people that have addiction, it tends to be a generational thing.
Sure.
For me, my parents had addictions to alcohol.
Right,
My daughter's father, his mom's 30 years sober now. So it is something that is generational, and you're right, like it needs to be broken.
right,
And I also think that when you get insurance involved, they don't really care about a person. They're not invested in the person like you
right,
guys are.
right.
Yeah.
And that's what when long time ago when we first started, when I started private practice, it was like they wanted so much information on the client. And I'm like, I don't know who you are. You could be this client's neighbor. I just didn't feel comfortable doing that. It's like, this is
Yeah.
private stuff, and I
Anonymity.
just wouldn't do it. I just wouldn't do it. So,
Well,
I just made a decision just intentionally. I don't, if I want to tell my stuff, I'll tell it. And if you want to tell yours, you're welcome to do that. But I just I just didn't want to do it. So we built our company on that and just really training people that this is an investment for life.
yeah,
I
about a
think that's the best way to go about it, honestly, because it
Mhm.
really is an investment on the addict's life, the
Yeah.
family's life,
Yeah.
and like you said, generations to
Generations.
come.
Well,
Like
you
it
Yeah.
know,
really
we
is.
we we
It really
started
is.
working about a year and a half ago. We developed a 4 month intensive program
Yeah.
called Transform You that's done over the internet. And there's that window between someone going to individual counseling or just going to meetings and intensive inpatient treatment. And there's this huge gap in the middle.
Right.
And so what we did is we developed a way of doing it over the internet is
Right.
to fill that gap with a 4 month intensive program. But like HollyKem said, we teach people, we
The
say,
course. Yeah.
this is a course of investing in yourself. And I
Right.
said, if we can help transform your marriage to where it's
Yes.
content, you learn how to communicate, you learn how to deal with each other's emotional pain, you learn how to develop and take responsibility for yourself, and then you have the skills to have a great life together. What is that worth,
Right.
right? And so when people start to understand, well, it's that's a lot more worthy than a brand new car
Right.
or an upgraded house or whatever, and they understand what their value is that they're investing,
Yeah.
then people start to invest in it. And we've seen so many people that, our heart goes out to so many people who are in recovery and who are suffering
Yeah.
because they haven't learned to manage their emotional pain. And so they stop the behavior, which is awesome,
Yeah.
but then the things that were driving the behavior
Right.
starts coming to the surface and they
That's
don't know what to do with that. And
that's
so
my whole mission, and that's why I like talking
Mm.
to people like you, because I think that too, and I love to hear different ways of people doing it. And so continue. I was just saying, like, I commend you guys on noticing that too, because that
Right.
is where I see the lacking in
Yeah.
our system of
Yeah.
recovery, and that is the whole, or the puzzle piece
Right.
that needs to be put in place.
Yeah.
yeah, it's
You're
so
right.
important because if you look at someone, sometimes people get a few years in recovery and actually have done really good and stopped whatever the
Mhm.
behavior is, and they start emotionally feeling suicidal.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And that stuff starts coming to the surface. And if we can't help you manage that and come up with the skills to get some relief, then it either go back using
Right.
or they might do something to really harm
That's why
themselves.
you're using, because you initially had those thoughts and those
Right.
feelings. You wanted to, well, for me, you wanted to numb yourself from those feelings. And then now you don't have that numbing thing that you, or you know what I
Right.
mean? That
Right.
you're lacking coping mechanisms, and it's giving you
Exactly.
coping mechanisms.
Yes. Healthy
So
coping, right. Healthy coping mechanisms so you can understand, because it doesn't look like cause and effect, but it is if you have the tools to be able to dissect it. So it's like being able to have tools to dissect it. And what was so important to me, and then showing Dean, I just felt like it was so important that we had a thing that you could do in your own home because that's where you live. You live in your home.
the other
And to
thing
be able
too.
to have something that people could do, now we have online, right? In the old days, all I could think about was like a VHS or
Well, I
a
remember even
CD.
how daunting it was my first time going somewhere to get help. And
Right.
if you have, just even for your first step, to be able to do it on your own, to open your mind up and start
Right.
learning things, it's so much beneficial, because I know the fear that people feel and the stigma and
Right.
the label, that
Right.
if they're afraid of that, then once they take that first plunge
Right.
into like doing it on their own,
Yeah.
then they don't care about the label anymore. They care about themselves because they see the benefits, right?
That's right. And so it's like being able to, like we do, like it's like this, where we teach like this in your own home, but we give you activations to do, assignments to do. And then, as a married couple, we want you to share them with each other. And then we offer online coaching, live online coaching weekly that goes with the process. And that way you come on. If you're scared to come on, you can watch them because we record them. And what happens is the people that are scared, they watch them and then they see how loving we are and how good and how, like we don't make you share. We just
Yeah.
open the floor up and we teach the whole, we teach for 10, 15, 20 minutes, a new lesson. So on whatever, it could be feelings, it could be anger, it could be grief, it could be, a drug. I don't know.
That
It could be
gets you
anything.
thinking too, and then you
Right.
want to share because you're thinking, oh,
Oh,
that
yeah.
happened to me, and oh, I feel this
Right.
way, and then you're like, oh,
Oh,
I relate, and
yes.
I'm not alone, and I can share now.
Exactly. And we have people that, maybe grew up in an addictive system, but, they're way out of it. But they still have, stuff and they just want to grow more. And then they get on, they're like, oh my God, I never realized this is how that fit that and why I'm so controlling or why I'm so afraid. And then they put all the pieces together and they're like, I don't really like to talk. We're like, it's okay, you don't have to. But then you see them after a little while, they're like, they raise their little hand, the little hand goes up on the, the emoji. And then we say, hey, would you like to share? And they share and they're like, they've helped so many people. And they're like, my whole life is changing. My relationship with my children are changing. My relationship with my husband. I actually starting to love myself. And it's like, you just see like this thing start happening for them. And, we've been doing this process for 30 something years. And so we do see it in our individual, right? And then when we speak and, we have a book and, it's everybody call our book is called A Roadmap to the Soul, but it's the roadmap. Like it's a roadmap, and it's like in that
What's it
process.
called again? Just so that
Yeah,
we can, if
yeah,
anybody
it's
wants to find it.
sure a roadmap to the soul.
And
A
is it
roadmap
on
to the
Amazon?
soul. Yes, it is on Amazon.
Okay.
And through that process, it's like they'll say in the, in the Transform You program, they'll say, yeah, the roadmap is helping me. I was able to do it when I was getting triggered at my mother-in-law's house and I got afraid and I went in the bathroom and I was able to do the roadmap and come back out and I could be my true self and I had a great time. And it's like, and then they know to go home and really journal about what happened, so they can figure it out, so they can love themselves more. So it's like, I knew what you got if you were in my presence and I was helping you. I wasn't sure what you would get if it was online. You just
Yeah.
don't know. You hope what you want to give is what is given. And I can say that, in my opinion, I thought if they got 50% more than when they were personally with me, I was going to be ecstatic. I think they get 150% more because they're in the safety of their home. They're with somebody that they love. They're sharing this with. And then they have access to a group that is doing the same thing. So I've been like really blown away of, how much more they received. And it's like I'm bringing them from A to Z on the roadmap. It's
Because
like
I
we
think
don't
it
have,
is that
yeah,
fear of be like, it's that fear of having to leave your house and do something that scares you. So
yes,
being able to learn and watch and maybe not speak if you don't have to,
right.
it's perfect. And that's the best.
Mhm.
That's what, like, I can say so many bad things about the internet because I have young
Right.
children,
You're
but
right.
there's so many good things that can come out of
Hmm.
it, especially with recovery, because I
Right.
know how afraid people are. I go to a methadone clinic, and when I see people come in for the first time, they
Yeah.
look terrified. And I mean,
Yeah.
they must have probably taken them months just to get themselves there, you know?
Yeah.
If they could have just sat and watched and listened to somebody with experience, and you both come across as such kind and warm people
Oh,
that it's easy to watch. It would be easy to watch and listen and soak up and resonate, you know? It's
oh,
not
Yeah.
that's
like
so
you
sweet, Jasmine.
guys don't have egos, because like that's something that you can find sometimes in programs, is
Yeah.
that there's huge egos because you have long-term sobriety and stuff like that, but you guys don't have that, which is amazing in itself, because like I said, a lot of people with long-term sobriety do tend to be like, you have to do it this way and this
Mhm.
and they're not very empathetic, but yet just listening to you guys, it's like you just genuinely want to help, and
Well,
that is
what
beautiful.
the one of the
Thank you.
biggest challenges when you work with someone, especially if they've struggled with self-destructive behavior,
You're right.
is to do the inner journey.
Right.
And they're scared that if I do this inner
Hmm.
journey, I'm going to find out
Right.
something that's bad.
Yeah.
And what we teach people, which I've seen this every time, if you're willing, number one,
Hmm.
to really take responsibility for your self-destructive behaviors, and number two, if you're willing to embrace and work with your emotional pain, every single time
Every time.
you'll find the gold,
You will.
GOLD, inside of you. You'll find who you really
Mhm.
are, and you'll find beauty,
Yeah.
and you'll find goodness,
Yeah.
and you'll find a place inside of you that's connected to God, and you'll find your purpose. And
Hmm.
so the inner journey is not just the hard stuff. The inner journey is all about finding the beauty of who you are.
Hmm.
And I've had so many people that have been scared
Yeah.
about doing the inner journey. But once they get on the roadmap and they get past the two bumps, they get to the third and they start to discover like the original intent of who they were meant to
Hmm.
be. And
Hmm.
that's when we say, what are we recovering? That's what we're
Yeah.
recovering. We're recovering the best
100%.
of who we are and who we are at our core. And that every time there's always beauty. There's
Yes.
always beauty.
Because
And really you can't find the beauty until
You're
you
right.
first embrace the ugly.
Yeah.
I always say that, like, when you look back with like my children, say when you're 5, right? And you think about what your future will be. You don't think, oh, I want all of this trauma and this addiction, and
Right.
it, you don't. So it's not what you wanted. So having to dive into things
Yeah.
that you don't like about yourself can be something that really puts a barrier up. But by
Mhm.
having a roadmap and having
Right.
somebody guide you through it, it definitely is a huge benefit because I did it by myself,
Yeah.
and it was hard to force myself to look in the mirror
Yeah.
and be like, you did that. That was your choice. That was
Mhm.
nobody else's choice. And it's things that I thought I would take to the grave, you know?
Yeah.
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 And you can't do that because it just keeps you in that place where you
Yeah.
will never love yourself if
Right.
you hold on to things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what's so beautiful too is that when you can exactly what you said about the child being 5 years old, I always say, I've not no one when they're 5 years old says, you know what, when I grow up, I'm going to be a drug addict and a junkie and an alcoholic, and I'm going to just destroy my life. And I'm going to get married. I'm going to get married, and I'm going to love him. Yeah. And he's going to love me. But you know what? We're going to fight. And then we're just going to have children and we're going to destroy their life. I've never met a human being ever say that. What they do say is that I cannot believe all the pain that I've caused myself and others. And they are devastated. That's the truth. And if they have someone lovingly hold their hand, because that's what I want for them, I want somebody to lovingly hold their hand and say, look, there is a way through this muck. And the person that who you really, really are, you might not have seen it in a long time, you might not know it, but you're not going to have to work at that. Okay. All we have to do is we have to do the work to get through the muck and be kind to ourselves as we're going through the muck because we already survived all that. Look, we survived it. We're on the other side. We just got to walk through it and look at it and be gentle to ourselves, be gentle and kind. And when we keep walking, we're going to find this beauty and you're not going to believe it, but it's going to just emerge. The more you do the work, the more it emerges. And all of a sudden, you can see this beauty in others, in yourself, and you will always know that wherever you've been becomes your treasure because then you're going to be able to hold someone else's hand through some kind of pain. It may not be the same, it may and may not, but you'll be able to hold their hand because you won't be afraid of the pain. Whatever it is, it could be a neighbor that's losing their mother. It could be anything, but you won't be afraid and you will be the blessing that because you walk through it that you can give to another human and that changes the world.
And I think that's the one blessing that comes out of somebody who is an addict is that I
Mm-hmm.
think that all of us have a deep empathy and a deep
Mm-hmm.
understanding and a big sense of non-judgmentalness towards people that we are able to like even like you said like with a neighbor or something
Yes.
like that because we don't have those thing
Mm-hmm.
like we've walked through some hard crap
Yes. Yes.
so
Yeah.
we're so and because we speak a lot about it with each other to try to heal,
Yeah.
we're so open to just jump in
Mm-hmm.
there and, dive in and make that person feel comfortable because
Mm-hmm.
we've already had to walk it and we don't, like I'm just thinking of like the neighbor I'm staying at my in-laws right now and she was in the hospital and like
Mm-hmm.
for really terrible anxiety. They thought she had a heart attack actually.
Mm-hmm.
But and easily I just jump in when she came home and was like, Trish, like, are you
Um,
okay? Like, you know what I mean? Instead of some people who would just maybe avoid that person
right.
because of what happened, because if it is an anxiety issue,
Right.
a lot of people would be like, oh, I don't want to deal with that, oh, I don't want to talk to her about that. Oh, but
Yeah.
like as addicts, we have that blessing of being like, oh, I want to help you. I don't know what it is, but I swear, anybody who's been sober for at least, I'd say 5 years, they start to just want to help people and branch
Yeah.
out in their own ways. Like I I like the what started all of this was for me was my daughter's father was in the ICU for pneumonia, and I was praying to God. I didn't know what direction to take in my life at that time, and it just one day popped out of nowhere. And I had another business that I completely shut. I went back to school, and I do the podcast, I do a television show, I'm in a few documentaries and stuff. And it was all from praying
Mm.
for, like, praying to be shown what I was meant to do.
That's
But
great.
Yes.
that's like you guys, do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
You might not have, when you first went into
Right.
sobriety, thought this is what we're gonna do,
Yeah.
you know. But now you've
Right.
been
Well,
doing it for so long, and I feel like because you guys have been doing it for so long, you've been able to tweak and, you
Yeah.
know, understand through all of it for all the years. And I guarantee your program probably helps everyone that you talk to. So, what is the website that you guys have so people
well,
can?
yeah. What's interesting is that we found out that freedom comes from having a voice.
Yeah.
And that's been our website for 40 years now is ihaveavoice.com. And so the
I'm gonna
roadmap
steal it,
is
but I can't.
to first give voice to your self-destructive
Yeah.
behavior. And so, if you go to meetings, you say, "Hi, I'm
Right.
Dean. I'm a what? I'm an
All
alcoholic.
it.
I'm an addict." Or whatever. I'm
Okay,
giving
nice.
I'm giving voice to my self-destructive behavior.
Right.
What people don't realize is that when you give voice to your self-destructive behavior, it actually takes the power away from that
Yes.
voice.
In the label away almost. And I didn't
Yeah.
think of it like that before. But
Yeah.
as soon as you just put it in those terms,
Right.
And,
I
and
I see it differently now.
yeah,
Yeah.
and then the second step is you give voice to your emotional pain.
Something that's hurt you.
And even in the steps, it talks about, all right, once you get past 1, 2, and 3, they say, okay, write down all your resentments, write down all your fears, write
Right.
down all the different sexual experiences you had that were out of the ordinary.
The whole
And
outline of it.
and
Yeah.
then
Uh-huh.
step 5 is to give voice to it,
Right. To speak it
to have a voice. And then
to a
that's when
loving
you,
person.
to a loving
Yeah.
person. But that's when you have one of the biggest promises
Yes.
is that the sunlight of the spirit starts to shine through.
Yeah.
Why? Because I gave a voice to my coping behaviors. I gave a voice to my wounds. And when that happens, all of a sudden it opens up like the clouds disappear.
Mhm.
And I start to, like you said, I start to see what part of my
Mhm.
purpose is. What is my passion?
Yeah.
What is it that I'm being called to by God to do? And then we move from we move from takers to givers.
Mhm.
And I think that's what you were explaining is
Yes.
that when we're stuck in our addictions, we are taking.
Mhm.
When we're stuck in our emotional pain, we are taking. But when we give voice to those two, I have a voice, then it opens up the third, which becomes a giver. And
Yeah.
that's when I give to my neighbor. I give to other people. I
Right.
give through podcast. I give through counseling. I give through just
TV
time
shows. Right.
and caring. And that's when we win and other people
Yes.
win is when we're able to stay in the giving mode, not the taking mode.
Well,
Right.
I just thought, like, as you were talking about that with the steps, I first tried the program when I was 24,
Mm.
and I was 13th stepping. So in my sexual part, I lied
Right.
about the name of the person in that portion. And you know what? I relapsed because I was not
Uh,
being honest, and I was doing things that were still destructive behavior, and I wasn't really fully doing, I was doing it surface level, you know.
right.
And that's like when you said you really have to intensively
Yeah.
actually do it, you know,
Yeah.
because I know from experience you'll relapse. Like, and I just think about
Right.
it to this day. Like, I lied and said his name was Tom when it definitely wasn't Tom,
Right.
right? And I think that my sponsor, because it was a small town, knew already what was going on. She
Right.
never said anything, but that is what kept me sick because
Mhm.
I wasn't embracing my, like, bad,
Truth.
like like my truth, but also my negative behavior.
Right.
And
Yeah.
that part is what you need to do. And you
Yes.
need to be able to be like, I like, even for me to say I 13th stepped
Right.
wouldn't have been possible 10 years ago. I would not have admitted it, you know?
Right.
And that is why I think it's like why people fail, you know, because
Right.
you really, as much as you hate it and you hate yourself for it, you have
Right.
to like look at it and be honest with it, not, you know what I mean? So like that's why
Yeah.
I love when Dean was saying like it with some of the programs you do, the one that's intensive.
Yeah.
Sometimes you need that intensiveness because
Yeah.
otherwise you're gonna be flaky like I was, you know?
Right. Right. Well, and we only know what we know,
hmm
and we can only give what we understand. So, I just want to honor you, Jasmine, for doing this because it allows for people to, like you said, open their mind and realize there is help. There is different ways. There's a lot of different ways. And, if you just start doing it because you're worth it, you're worth doing the work because the beauty that comes will blow your mind and the gifts and the love that will come back like you can't even imagine. It may not be from who you want it from, because we all want our love to come from, X, Y, and Z, but it may be A, B, and C, but it will be better and more than you can ever imagine if you open your heart.
And so when you like run programs, how often do you like do so like you like
Like for somebody to
how
join.
many pro first of all I'll ask how many programs do you run at one time? Like how many programs do you offer?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we both have our individual coaching and counseling practice, but we offer one program called Transform You,
Yeah.
and that's for individuals and couples. And we think marriages are so important. We charge the same price for an individual as we do for a couple,
Couple.
because if we can save a couple, we can save a family, and that all starts rippling out. But yeah, so that's the two main programs we have.
And you can join anytime. So it's not like you have to have 12 people and then we do it. So you
Mhm.
can join at any point at any time because you're doing it from home. And then when you come onto the live platform, you learn just because we're always teaching and people are sharing. And even if you don't understand as much in the beginning, like, it'll start becoming a lifestyle. That's our goal. Like our brand is a lifestyle. The
But
roadmap is a
we
lifestyle
had
for you
a
to integrate.
we had a great testimony, a guy who went through with his wife, and we asked him if he'd say, how'd things get better? And he said, well, I'm still fighting with my wife, but our fights went from 3 days to 3 minutes. That's my testimony. So you still haven't, but it's just instead of lasting 3 days, it lasts 3 minutes and it's over. I said, that's a good word right there.
Well, you know what? Even through like because my spouse is also sober. He and I have been able to, we've been through so much just from having addiction. We were both in active addiction when we met and stuff like that. We got sober together and we've gone through some very big hardships in life together. Maybe some newly developed addictions on some on another end, not mine,
Right.
but and we like he said we've gone from like screaming and it scares my children so like we
Yeah.
it's just we've gone from doing that to being able to communicate and
Yeah.
like not maybe always the best communication
Sure.
because I'm kind of a bug, so if we're in a stressful situation I will bug and I know I'm bugging and then I but because I can pick up on what
Yeah.
I'm doing. I'm present enough to realize that I'm doing that to him. I am able to see it on his face and stop bugging, you know what I mean? And leave him for the day and then ask him again the next day instead of,
Yeah.
oh, did you do this? Did you do this? Did you do this? Did you do this? Because I know it bothers him so much because he doesn't have the control. I just am somebody that is really pushy when I want something. So, and he is very shy. So I have to realize who he is and realize he is doing what he like is says he's doing. He is just not me. So
Right.
he can't sit, he's not going to sit there and call them every 15 minutes because
Right.
it's just not in his personality. And I have to realize that, and it makes things work. And like hearing your child say to you, like, I want to live with mommy and daddy forever. It makes
Mm,
me like think
right.
no matter what goes on in our relationship, if it gets negative, we would seek out something like this. Do you
Yeah.
know what I mean? Because
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's worth it to keep your
Yes.
family together as much as
absolutely.
people
Yes.
don't stay together anymore. And that's where I was saying earlier. I find that so negative because people don't want to put the work in,
Right.
but yet it hurts other people. It
Yeah.
hurts even like my mother-in-law or
Mm,
my stepdad would
yeah.
be like so
Devastated.
upset if he never
Sure.
my spouse again, or if it became really nasty because with my daughter's father and her addiction, it
Right.
did get really like upsetting to everybody just because
Right.
he exited the family due to reasons obviously, but it's we all still like think about, like we all still care about that person, you know? So
Hmm.
like if you can make it work
Right.
and believe, like, do you know what I mean? Not just give up because so many people
Right.
just give up. Like, no, because you have your own quirks and your own
Mhm.
things, right? So to sit there
Right.
and be like, oh, she has a red flag. I got 10 red flags. So,
Right.
you know, it's just understanding each other
Right.
and being able to work together opposed to working against each other. So
Yeah.
I
And you know
love
what?
that you guys do that and you
Um,
offer the same price for couples because I
yeah.
believe in that. I love it. So thank
Thank
you
you.
for sharing that.
Yeah. Well, and one of the things too is that a lot of times it's skill. You just don't have the skill. Okay. You know, I couldn't run a marathon because I don't have the skill. You know, there's certain things you have to learn to do and work out a certain way to be able to do that. You know, so it's like if you learn the skill and you can make it a lifestyle and implement it, then you get the rewards, right? And so all of a sudden it's like it's not that I am a problem. It's not that I'm a bad person. I just never got the skill. Okay. Well, we get the skill, we integrate it, we learn to live in that lifestyle of how to communicate, how to figure out what's going on with me, how to share it, what was the old stuff, what's the new stuff, what's happening. And then all of a sudden, life gets very simple. And then we can create a life. You can't create a life when you're in survival. You can't create a life when you're in pain, but you can create a life when you have skill to know how to love yourself through that. And then you can say, you know, what do we want our life to look like? And then you can start creating it. And it's like that is what we do, you know, in a nutshell, is what we do.
And do you have set because you both have your own coaching practices? Do you have
Mhm.
separate websites or is it all
Yeah.
on I Have a Voice?
I have a
All
voice.
Boy,
all on
Yes.
I Have a Voice?
Yes. And yeah, and on I Have a Voice, we have a YouTube channel that we have over 300 videos. And that's called I Have a Voice. And the YouTube channel, the videos can go from 30 seconds to an hour. And you can go there and get free, you know, us teaching, us sharing. And then the book is like $20. And, you know, people just, if they can't afford us, you can do the book because the course is the book.
Mhm.
We teach the book, we, you know, go into depth, but you can do the book. Like we have a couple of people that have done the book. They did the book for 2 years in their book club. They just kept doing it. And then when we got the course, they like all signed up to do the course with us. So, but you can get the book and do it that way, you know? So we just, you know, we want to offer as much as we can at different prices, free to $20 all the way up to a high dollar course. But, you know, it's an investment that you take with you.
and
Mhm.
our podcast, we do
Oh,
live
yeah.
coaching.
We do live coaching on
So
the
we
podcast.
do
Oh,
a instead of
that's
talking.
cool. Yeah,
Yeah,
that
yeah,
because it'd be nice to sit and listen to something like that, especially if you're having
Right.
a rough like week, and then on the weekend you listen to that, and it kind of helps you bring
Yes.
yourself back center wise, you know what I
Yes.
mean?
Yeah.
Um, so what was I gonna ask you guys? Oh my gosh. Um, so how is it working together? Are you guys what's it like?
It's great. Well, we've worked together our whole relationship. We've been married, it would be on July 26th, it would be 34 years we're married. And we have always worked together. And, and we created the concept. We wrote the book together. We traveled together. We coached together. So we love it. I mean,
And the book
we
can
love
be
each
found.
other.
We get
Oh, I
along.
can tell
Makes it
that.
easy.
But the book
Yeah.
can be
Best
found.
friend.
The book can be found also on I Have a Voice as
Yes.
well as Amazon, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I
That's
have a
right.
voice.com. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, before I let you guys go, you have any last little bit of tidbits to share with us before I let you go?
I would say the greatest gift you can give your spouse, your friends, your children is to do your own work.
Mhm.
And when you do, it's a gift to you and it's a gift to everybody
Yeah.
around you. So, and that would be my encouragement is don't be afraid to do
Mhm.
your work.
Yeah. And what I always like to say is that you're worth it. You are so worth doing the work, no matter how ugly it's been, how painful it's been. You are worth it. You've already survived it. You are already on the outs. You're not in it anymore. And even if you are, you can love yourself to get out. You are worth it.
Well, thank you so much for all of your advice and just like sharing what you do because I guarantee probably some people will be buying that book and reaching out.
Yeah.
So thank you so much. I appreciate you sharing or giving me the time to have you on and like I said, sharing your perspective and also just sharing how humble and kind you guys are because I
Mhm.
think that that'll help. That helps people realize that the people in the world aren't all full of ego and about themselves. There's real people out there that really want to help and have been for years. So
Oh,
thank you so much.
You're
thank
welcome.
you, Jasmine. Thank you.
Have a good rest of your day. Thank you so much.
Okay. God bless.
God bless. Bye.
Bye bye.